Tonight we have a very special guest in Laurie Eddie, who was one of the men who started the SA branch of the Australian Skeptics in 1983. The purpose of that group, as I understand it, is to question everything, and often for the purpose of uncovering charlatans and bogus claims. Laurie's group are the sort of people that make it difficult for people to sell products that do no more than charm the imaginations of purchasers. Laurie is a clinical psychologist who, before he was a clinical psychologist, spent more than 20 years working for corrections, so that's in the prison system. So between those two jobs, we can be assured that he knows a few things about how people think and behave and why. Tonight, Laurie will be debating our Reasonable Faith group leader and starter, Kevin Rogers. Kevin is a research fellow in the School of Engineering at the University of South Australia and has worked for a long time as an engineer for the Department of Defence. So Kevin is more in that rational, scientific, making things work line. But Kevin has branched out recently doing a graduate diploma in philosophy. Both Kevin and Laurie have contributed to the Investigator magazine, which examines religion and the paranormal with a bias for empiricism and scientific knowledge, which is acknowledged on their website, on the front page of their website. So while Kevin and Laurie have different beliefs about God, they share common beliefs about epistemology. That is, how we can know things and how we can claim to know things. And perhaps some of us here would have different ways of knowing than these two guys. But this is where they're both coming from there. On the Investigator website, Laurie is quoted as saying, "I believe in some sort of universal intelligence, but I'm not sure whether I'd refer to it as God." So I thought it was interesting, and so that's got me open with a question I'd like to know perhaps why. So to the debate. Each speaker will have up to 15 minutes initially to express their answers to that debate question, does God exist? Then each speaker will have a further 10 minutes to respond to what the other speaker said. So it's a pretty short and simple debate in that sense. After those periods of time, we'll break and we'll have a cuppa and some snacks, and then anybody can ask a question respectfully and so on after that. So if you wanted to take notes while they were talking so that you can remember your questions, feel free. Come and get a pencil and paper, or perhaps I can bring it to you if you prefer. Speaking first is, I've forgotten. Who's speaking first?
Oh, I thought you forgot my name.
No.
No, I am.
You're speaking first?
Yes.
Okay, so speaking first is no, I haven't forgotten your name.
Well, let's find out.
Speaking first is Kevin.
Yeah.
And for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
I just didn't know whether it was you or Laurie speaking first. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Perry, for that introduction, and thank you everybody for coming, and thank you very much, Laurie, for coming along and joining in this debate. My aim's not to beat you into the ground, but to actually engage you. So I trust it's an enjoyable time for everybody. The topic of this evening is, does God exist? And I forgot to grab my glasses. The topic for this evening is, does God exist? And the primary arguments that I'm going to cover are the Kalam cosmological argument. There you go, Dan. The fine-tuning argument, the moral argument, the argument from the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth, and from personal experience. The Kalam cosmological argument can be summarised as follows. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. The argument then lists the properties of this cause. Traditionally, the first premise has been widely accepted as obvious. Usually, atheists have argued that the universe is eternal. Thus the universe never had a beginning, and so there is no need for a first cause. Hence most of the discussion has been about premise 2. The universe began to exist. The arguments against an eternal universe are both philosophical and scientific. First of all, the philosophical ones. It is impossible to have a sequence of causes and effects that is infinite. Firstly, you cannot form an infinite set by successive addition. Whenever you add 1 to a finite number, it always results in another finite number. In addition, the potential existence of infinites leads to absurdities. David Hilbert proposed a parable about an imaginary hotel that contained an infinite number of rooms. He then proposed various scenarios where guests checked in and out and listed all the absurdities that arise. Hilbert concluded that infinites are only a concept in the mind and exist nowhere in reality. Thus, if the sequence of causes is finite, then there must be a first cause. We often speak about the infinite. It is a simple idea, and so it's easy to assume that we are talking about something real. This is confusing big numbers with infinite numbers. The universe may be big, but it is not infinite. There are also now good scientific reasons for believing that the universe had a beginning. Firstly, the second law of thermodynamics states that the entropy of a closed system is constantly increasing. Increasing entropy is manifested by the fact that all forms of energy are eventually converted into heat. For instance, all of the stars are converting their energy into light and heat, and will eventually run out of gas, so to speak. If the universe is infinitely old, then why are they still shining? They should have burnt out by now. However, the stars are still shining. This implies that the universe had a beginning. An additional item of scientific evidence for a beginning of the universe is the fact that the universe is constantly expanding. The current theory is that the universe began to exist from an initial singularity a finite time ago. This marked the beginning of energy, matter, space, and time. To get around this problem, some have suggested that this universe was spawned by a prior universe, and maybe there has been an infinite sequence of universes. However, even this option has effectively been closed. In 2006, physicists Borde, Guth and Vilenkin produced a theorem that demonstrated that if the cosmos has on average been expanding, then it cannot have an infinite past. Thus, premise 2 has received strong consent from the scientific community. This has led some to challenge premise 1 and suggest that the universe could have arisen uncaused from nothing by appealing to quantum mechanics. For instance, it is often argued or often quoted how virtual particles can randomly appear in empty space, so-called. Nature abhors a vacuum, they say. However, empty space actually consists of a sea of fluctuating energy, and virtual particles are generated by the random fluctuations in the background energy levels. All attempts to postulate an uncaused creation tend to redefine what nothing means. They argue how something can arise from nothing, but the nothing actually ends up being something, which then begs the question, where did this something come from? Maria von Trapp was right when she said, nothing comes from nothing, nothing ever will. Some say, if God made the universe, then who made God? The objector gives you this knowing look, as if they had said something profound. The answer is no one. God is uncaused and has no beginning. God is a necessary being and thus necessarily exists in all possible worlds. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, you might say. Not so. The universe is contingent by nature. there must be some transcendent being that exists necessarily to be the foundation for the existence of the contingent world. Thus we have strong reasons for believing that both premise 1 and premise 2 are true. The conclusion that the universe has a cause then logically follows. However, what is the nature of this cause? Could it be a pink unicorn or a flying spaghetti monster? What can we conclude? The beginning of the universe occurred at a single instant and was the beginning of matter, energy, space and time. Thus, the cause of the universe must transcend the universe. It must be immaterial, powerful and timeless. The universe is also contingent. It did not have to exist. Thus, the creation of the universe entailed choice. Now for the fine-tuning argument. Scientists used to believe that the evolution of life was inevitable and took the laws of physics for granted. However, in the last 40 years, they have since found that the initial conditions of the universe and the constants in the laws of physics are extraordinarily finely tuned to enable any form of life. An example of the fine-tuning of the constants in the laws of nature, the laws of physics, is the ratio between the electrostatic repulsion and the attraction between hadrons due to the strong nuclear force. We've got a simple picture of a helium atom here. Atoms consist of nuclei surrounded by electrons. The nucleus consists of protons and neutrons. The protons are positively charged and like charges repel. Why then don't the protons fly apart? The answer is that the strong nuclear force binds the protons and neutrons together. It only acts at short range, something like superglue. If the strong nuclear force was slightly weaker, then the nuclei could not form and all matter would be hydrogen. If the strong nuclear force was slightly larger, then all matter would be helium. In fact, the ratio between the forces is just right to allow the formation of the atomic table. If it was varied by just 1 or 2%, then this would prevent the possibility of any form of life. Some have suggested that if the physical constants had different values, then other forms of life would be possible. However, this is just not the case. Now for examples of numbers. All right, skip that slide. Even Richard Dawkins now acknowledges the fact that the physical laws are finely tuned. However, he only refers to it in qualitative terms and never cites the actual numbers. However, the numbers immediately give the game away. I will now present some examples of numbers and probabilities. First, let's put some numbers in their context. The universe is approximately 10 to the 17th seconds old. That's around about 13.7 billion years. So 10 to the 17th is a very, very big number. There are approximately 10 to the 80 atoms in the universe. So that is a huge number. The fine-tuning in the strong nuclear force should cause us to think and wonder. But this is chicken feed compared with other parameters. The fine-tuning of the weak force is 1 in 10 to the 100th power. The fine-tuning in the cosmological constant is 1 in 10 to the 120th power. So this is 10 to the 40th times the number of atoms in the universe. This is a stupendous number. However, things get far worse for those who want to avoid the fine-tuning. Roger Penrose has calculated that the gravitational configuration of the early universe was finely tuned to 1 part in 10 to the 10th to the 123. This is the number 1 followed by 10 to the 123 zeros. The fine-tuning argument can be summarised as follows. I can't even read that. Oh, won't make it. The fine-tuning, I'd make it if you didn't interrupt me with those cards. The fine-tuning argument can be summarised as follows. The fine-tuning of the initial conditions and constants in the laws of physics are due to chance, law or design. It is not due to chance or law, therefore it is due to design. Some have suggested that the fine-tuning is due to law. This means that the values we have are the only ones possible due to some underlying law. However, this has at least two problems. Firstly, it does not explain the initial conditions. It is obvious that the initial conditions could have been different. Secondly, string theory suggests that there are at least 10 to the 500th possible combinations for the physical quantities. The predominant view of those who support chance is the multiverse theory. This means that there are an infinite number of universes that we cannot observe, and we just happen to live in a lucky one. However, a critical problem with this theory is that there are other configurations that would result in a sensation of consciousness that are far more probable than this one. In other words, if the multiverse theory were true, we would expect to observe something far different from what we do. Thus, if the fine-tuning is not due to law or chance, then it must be due to design. Thus, we are left to the conclusion that there is a designer. Now, Richard Dawkins claims that the appearance of design is an illusion. Maybe, however, that illusion is reality. So if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, waddles like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then maybe it's a duck. If the fine-tuning argument is correct, then what does it say about the designer? It must at least imply that the designer is highly intelligent and must have a mind. Now for the moral argument. The arguments that we've considered so far claim that there is a creator and designer of the universe. However, the creator and designer could possibly be a deistic God. In other words, a God could have started the universe, wound it up and let it go, was not concerned about us. In the moral argument, we argue that the moral realm must be founded in God. This implies that God is concerned about the moral realm and so is concerned about us. The moral argument can be summarised as follows. If God does not exist, then objective moral values and duties do not exist. Objective moral values and duties do exist, therefore God exists. Moral values have to do with whether something is good or bad. Moral duties have to do with whether something is right or wrong. Objective means independent of people's opinions. Subjective means dependent on people's opinions. Atheism implies that there is no basis for objective moral values or duties. Premise 1 says, if God does not exist, then objective moral values do not exist. This is relatively uncontroversial, as is readily admitted to be true by atheists. For instance, Michael Ruse claims, the position of the modern evolutionists is that human beings have an awareness of morality because such an awareness is of biological worth. Morality is a biological adaptation no less than our hands and feet and teeth. Considered as a rationally set of justifiable claims about an objective something, ethics is illusory. I appreciate that when somebody says, love thy neighbour as thyself, they think they are referring above and beyond themselves. Nevertheless, such reference is truly without foundation. Morality is just an aid to survival and reproduction, and any deeper meaning is illusory. And I ask you, would you trust that man? However, if moral values and duties are not objective, then they are just a matter of choice or opinion. We have no right to judge others' actions. Morality is not binding. But people only maintain that moral values are relative until faced with examples. Was the Holocaust evil regardless of who won the war? Is paedophilia okay? Is raping babies okay? Faced with these examples, most people will recoil in horror. As soon as we admit that raping babies is objectively bad, then we affirm that objective moral values and duties do indeed exist.
Time's up.
Do you mind if I go over a bit of time?
Doesn't worry me.
Okay. You wanted a short debate anyway, didn't you? It's your rules. All right. I'll ask for grace.
What? 2 minutes?
5.
5 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
20 minutes each then?
Yeah.
Yep, all right.
Some things are really bad. We do have a right to make laws and impose some values and duties on all of society. Our intuition tells us that the moral realm is not illusory, it is real. Thus, the moral argument affirms that God exists. that he is interested in our values and what we do. Thus we have now gone beyond the deistic God and a firm belief in a God who is interested in us. So the cosmological design and moral arguments affirm that there exists a God who is creator, designer and the basis of objective moral values. However, these arguments are applicable to all of the monotheistic religions. I'll now consider two additional arguments that are specifically Christian. These are historical evidence for Jesus' resurrection and the witness of the Spirit in Christian experience. The primary evidence for the resurrection is taken from the New Testament. Now, some people will react and say, oh, you can't believe that stuff in the Bible. However, this reflects a misunderstanding of what the New Testament is. The New Testament is a collection of 27 different writings by 8 different authors. They are written at different times at different places. They contain material that is independent and semi-dependent. They are one of the best collections of written material from the ancient world. The professor of history at Macquarie University has claimed, this is a type of evidence that a historian would kill for. Historians study the New Testament using historical criteria such as multiple attestation, the criteria of embarrassment and the criteria of dissimilarity to extract what are called nuggets of truth. Historians take the New Testament seriously as a source of historical information about the ancient Near East. As a result, there is now wide agreement by historians on the following historical facts. Jesus was crucified, died and was buried by Joseph of Arimathea. On Sunday morning, his tomb was empty. The disciples believed they saw appearances of the risen Christ, and the origin of the early church was based on the belief in the resurrection. Historians neither affirm nor deny the miraculous. They do not say that the disciples saw the risen Christ or that Christ rose from the dead. But they do affirm that the disciples believed that they saw the appearances of the risen Christ. This reflects historical methodology. It is up to us to infer whether a miraculous event actually took place. Some have proposed various theories that attempt to explain what happened in terms of natural explanations. The primary views are the conspiracy theory, apparent death, displaced body and hallucination. I'll skip a bit, but none of these have actually been successful.
You've only got 2 minutes left.
Oh, I'm right. However, the New Testament claim that God raised Jesus from the dead does explain the evidence. If this is so, then we have a divine miracle on our hands and therefore God exists. All this evidence from science, philosophy and history may be fine, but why doesn't God show himself to me now? The answer is that he does, and that he can be known personally. The arguments that I've been using are not always accessible to ordinary folk, but the knowledge of God is. And I'll give you some examples. Mothers-in-law have a negative stereotype. They are the butt of jokes and are one of the unavoidable costs of marriage. However, this is not the case with me. I still joke about my mother-in-law, but she is a wonderful woman whom I greatly admire. I was recently talking to her about my involvement with Reasonable Faith. She was quite interested in what I was doing, but she added, I don't need any of these arguments. I know Christianity is true. I asked her why, and so she told me a number of incidents in which she experienced God working in her life. This is the way it has to be. Very few people have the opportunity, ability, or inclination to explore the arguments that I have discussed. So how can they be assured that what they believe and trust in is true? In 1 John it says, you have an anointing from the Holy One, and all of you know the truth. I do not write to you because you do not know the truth, but because you do. And Jeremiah states that if you seek God, you'll find him, if you search for him with all your heart. The Bible does not state exactly what form this experience takes. Each person is different. For me, it often occurs as I read the Bible. I sometimes read the Bible to examine what it says, to put it under scrutiny. But as I do, I often then experience the Bible jumping out and examining me. It is though I apprehend God speaking to me. Full stop. I'm done.
I'll leave that microphone.
You're right, you know.
If I wave to you, can you change my slide?
No. No, say escape.
Some of us would have really appreciated all of that maths and science and everything that's going on, and some of us would have been very glad that Kevin got to finish and say, it's okay, you can believe in God and you don't.
I thought I was going to be listening to a sermon.
Will you?
It's almost ended up that way. Right, now.
So, Laurie, would you like 20 minutes as well?
No, I should go for 15, I hope.
15, but you can have the
Oh, well, all right, I'll...
go for 20 straight up, or just...
where do you want me to pin this thing? Can you hear me? Is that microphone working all right? Thank you. What can I say? Does God exist? Thank you very much for inviting me to come along here tonight. I'll try to be brief. Thank you. Does God exist? Well, thank you. The words of Clarence Darrow, I don't believe in God because I don't believe in Mother Goose, and that pretty well sums up my point of view on the belief in God. Thank you. First of all, there is no actual evidence of the existence of any gods, and I stress gods. Thank you. We tend to get so-called evidence presented by believers, but whether they're Hindus, Muslims or Christians, and I'll be dealing mainly with Christians tonight because I assume most of you are Christians. Thank you. One of the most common things people say is, well, the beauty of nature is evidence of the existence of God. Thank you. However, they conveniently ignore the fact that nature can be quite nasty, as we witnessed in the other day in Oklahoma, where whole suburbs have been wiped out. Thank you. So we have to ask the question, all right, if God does exist, well, what God are you talking about? Thank you. Thank you. Historians have recorded 3,700 supernatural beings in the various writings of the various cultures. Of these, 2,670 are defined as supreme deities. That's quite a lot. Thank you. So which of all those might be real? Thank you. We have a selection here, and we have to ask ourselves, why should your particular deity be any better than any of the others? I mean, some of them are better looking, some provide more benefits. So, thank you. Now, Christians and Jews worship the deity Yahweh. Thank you. And we have to ask the question, why? Thank you. Religious beliefs are basically a form of cultural superstition. Thank you. All religions are based on superstitious beliefs, a belief in the existence of supernatural beings. Thank you. There was a time, a long time ago, we figure 200, 300,000 years ago, when the early hominids, which included Homo sapiens, Homo neanderthalis and the others, didn't have any concept of the metaphysical. It hadn't occurred to them that there might be such a thing. Thank you. Now, evidence suggests that somewhere as their brain and intelligence evolved, they started to come up with the idea of spirits, supernatural beings. Thank you. Now, a common belief is the thing that motivated them were fear. Early humans were puny, primitive. They were the prey of the predators of the velds. But over time they became more intelligent, and part of that intelligence, they started to conceptualise things to deal with their fears. Thank you. And Bishop Spong said, religion evolved as a means of providing humans with a sense of security rather than as a search for truth. Thank you. If we look at the definition of superstition, basically it's an extreme credulous belief in and reverence for supernatural beings. And if we look at religion, the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. Thank you. We have to say, well, what's the difference? Well, when you look at it, thank you, there is no difference. It was common in the 19th century for the European Christians to send missions out to the poor benighted heathens in Africa and Asia. And they had this idea that we Christians are superior because we have this belief in God. We have the only true belief. And all these other people believe in superstitions. It didn't occur to them that they were believing in a superstitious too. There was no difference between them and the Africans. Thank you. Belief in Yahweh is a superstition that's been inherited through our Western culture. We got it from our parents. Our parents got it from the grandparents, and it goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, back to a time when some king decided it was politically expedient to have Christianity. And the people were given a choice. You can either be a Christian or you'll be executed. So what did people do? They converted. Thank you. The current belief system that we have evolves from an ancient group of nomadic shepherds, approximately 1500 years BC, known as the Israelites. Now, they lived in a world of many gods, and sometime something happened to make them decide, we will worship one particular Baal. Now, in those days, the Baals were the gods that lived on the mountaintops. And they selected the Baal of Mount Sinai to be their supreme deity. Sorry, I've got a bit of a dry throat. Thank you. Now, don't get me wrong, they didn't give up their polytheistic beliefs. They had all these other beings, these spirits. So they said, well, what are we going to do with them if we've got this bloke is going to be the boss? Oh, we'll make them into angels. And even today in Christianity, Christianity is not monotheistic, it's polytheistic. It's got all these beings, these angels. And if you read the book of Job about the council of the angels. Thank you. Now, we find a reflection of these beliefs in Genesis, where God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." He's using the plural. Who were these others? They were the other gods. Thank you. Now, one of the problems with the Israelites were scientifically they were illiterate. They were morons. Thank you. In all their history, they never made a single contribution to science. Thank you. All their ideas they nicked from other cultures. Most of their ideas about creation and the cosmos were stolen from the Egyptians and the Babylonians. Thank you. Now, if we look at the creation story in Genesis, thank you, that was stolen straight from the Egyptians. Thank you. It was the creation myth of Atum, who came upon the swirling chaos of waters and finding no land, divided the waters, created lands. Thank you. Science and reason means asking questions and finding answers. Thank you. Unfortunately, the Israelites went into a bit of a dead end. Thank you. Because for every question they had about nature, thank you, they only had one answer. It's God's will. Why does the sun go around the earth? Oh, it's God's will. Why do we have seasons? Oh, it's God's will. Don't bother asking. Everything's God's will. Thank you. They believed God had created a complete, perfect system. Thank you. Which meant the cosmos was fixed, static, unchanging. Thank you. And Christianity inherited all these primitive ideas. Thank you. Christians' belief in God is based upon what's written in the Bible. Thank you. A book of fairy tales. Thank you. I can only give a few examples, but how reliable is the Bible? Thank you. The Codex Sinaiticus, 4th century, one of the earliest versions of the Bible. Thank you. 23,000 errors in about 800 pages. That's how accurate it is. Thank you. A lot of people today, Christians, try to reconcile science and the Bible. Very difficult. Thank you. If we look at Genesis, we find God creates light on the first day of creation, but he doesn't bother to create the sun until the 4th day. Thank you. Now, as I said, a lot of Christians try to reconcile the creation story with science, and they say, well, maybe it wasn't 6 days, it was 6 periods of time that could have been hundreds of thousands or millions of years. Thank you. The Hebrew is very clear. It uses the word yom, which means a day. Thank you. Now, the word day can be a bit flexible, because you can say, well, I had to wait around all day, and we don't mean 24 hours. It's sort of, we just mean a long period of time. But Genesis qualifies it and says quite specifically, there was evening and morning one day. So each day was 24 hours. You can't get away from that. Thank you. Religion is essentially based upon ignorance. Thank you. Christianity particularly says, don't ask questions, don't rock the boat. Remember what happened when Luther did. Thank you. The Catholic Church had complete domination. It did not tolerate anyone asking questions. If you did, you were given the choice, recant or die. Giordano Bruno made certain claims. He believed there was an infinite number of worlds inhabited by people, and he would not recant, so he was burnt alive. Thank you. The state of Christianity and science was so bad that the Christians frequently lost track of Easter. And on one occasion, the Pope actually had to send a special ambassador to the Moors, the Arabs in Spain, to ask them to sort out their calendars so they could know when to celebrate Easter. Thank you. Now, after the Renaissance and the Reformation, there were changes. The Church was forced to change. And it said, all right, well, we'll accept the Copernican version of the universe, thank you. But what we're going to say is, yes, God created all these things according to specific laws, and the universe or the cosmos operates according to these laws, which was a thing known as natural theology. It was a big...
You're now going into that extra focus.
Oh, all right. Thank you. I'm almost finished. Thank you very much. And Kevin mentioned the watchmaker analogy of William Paley. Thank you. The inference from that analogy was that if something as complex as a watch had to have a maker, then the universe, which was just as complex, must have had a creator. Thank you. Now that is an erroneous conclusion because there are other explanations for it. Thank you. One of the earliest experiments was the Miller-Urey experiment, which was to find out if you could create amino acids naturally. And they not only succeeded in creating the Earth's primitive atmosphere and passing electricity through it, they were able to create 20 different amino acids. So it does seem possible that the early solar system and the universe could have come into existence through a natural evolutionary process. Thank you. Thank you. Just a quote from a recent author. God is dead. Nietzsche didn't kill him. It was Carl Sagan and Stephen Hawking. Thank you. Next one. Press it again. To paraphrase Tom Cruise, you need to believe, I don't. Thank you very much. Oh, hang on. I've got your microphone.
Does this count?
No, we haven't